Hello everyone and welcome to this GL Assessment Year 5 homework review video for Block 3 Week 5. This is the non-verbal reasoning review video. There is a separate video that goes through the verbal reasoning assessment tests. Let's have a look at the homework here. So for week 5, this is what this video will be covering. We actually recommend for this week that you complete only the homework from the non-verbal reasoning CGP book because it's quite a large assessment week this week, and actually what we noticed as well is when you compare it to the verbal reasoning, that's also quite a large homework. So my advice for this video is to focus primarily on just finishing this work here. It's focusing all on complete the pair, which is a really important question type, and these remaining sequence test questions using the Collins book, which are also fantastic and really valuable, can either be done as part of the You Could, or they may even be suggested spreading across the 2 weeks, week 5 and week 6. We will go through these questions, but as a part of the week 6 review video, just to sort of spread the work around, because actually we did notice that this week, certainly when you combine the homework with the verbal, it's quite a lot, and we want to make it nice and manageable for you. Right then, on to
this book here, which is your non-verbal reasoning for GL assessment 10 to 11. Make sure it's your 10 to 11 book, not the one from block 1. And then let me just show you very quickly the quick answer section. So here, look, this is the quick answers for pages 42 and 43. So by all means, pause it here and mark those if you'd like to. Otherwise, I'm about to jump straight in to pages 42 and 43, which are as follows. So pause here. Right, and on I go. Let's see how quickly you can get through these 4 sections. So this first one is on page 42 and 43. And for question number 1, the pattern is that the outline of the 2 shapes is swapping over. So the outline of the big shape becomes the outline of the small shape. So here, the outline of the small triangle needs to become a solid line, and the outside of the big triangle needs to become a thick line, making the option E. For option 2, all the black sections become white, and all the white sections become black. That means we need to have option B highlighted. For option 3, the 2 shapes are just swapping places, swapping locations. That makes it C. But you can also notice, I'm sure, that the the larger shape is gaining a side. So it's going from 3 to 4. This one's going from 5 to 6. Question 4, the top and the bottom parts of the figure are swapping their shading. And then the bottom of the inside shape is rotating 180 degrees. So if you think it's pointing this direction, it's now pointing this direction. So we need an arrow pointing this way after it's rotated around. So you'll also have that bit at the top. And then the shading obviously is going from black on the bottom to now black on the top. Number 5, you can see that you're getting the figures being reflected and then appearing behind. So we need to have a reflection of this shape appearing behind. So you're going to see a triangle like this, with this triangle coming out sort of along that side there. But this is the one that's the reflected figure is the one that appears behind. So this is going to kind of sneak in behind there. That's what you see in B. For number 6, the top 2 shapes are becoming smaller. So both inside and the outside part of the top shape, and the bottom 2 shapes, and swap to become like the bottom 2. So if you look here, this W is rotating around to look like this one. So here we're going to have this bottom shape here being a V, but pointing in the opposite direction. So if I was to sketch it, it would look like there's your diamond, and this shape facing that direction, becoming larger, and then this one is becoming smaller, and again shrinking. So we need to have on the bottom sort of a squashed hexagon with again a V pointing in this direction. You put those 2 together, pointing left, gets rid of that one, that one, that one. So D. So actually our answer just on that alone. So hopefully that's clear for number 6. So the top 2 shapes get smaller and become the bottom 2 shapes, and the bottom 2 shapes get bigger and become the top 2 shapes. And then both shapes are rotating 180 degrees. Number 7, a few bits going on here. So the small arrow is rotating 45 degrees clockwise. So if you look, it's going from, it's doing color, it's going from here to here. So we need to continue. So that one's going to rotate around like this to this. So that's where your small arrow needs to be, like in A. And I'll do it in red. The other arrow, the large arrow, is rotating 90 degrees anti-clockwise. So you're going from here to here. So that's this direction. So follow the same one around from here to here, anti-clockwise. So it's just actually rotation for number 7. For number 8, the two black triangles move up behind the shape, so you can go from here to here. So this one's going to move up slightly, so you want it to be as it's shown in B, C, and D. And then the three dots are rotating 90 degrees. So these three dots become like this. So these three need to become horizontal. And thankfully, that lets us eliminate both B and C as the dots are vertical. So D is our answer for number 8. Number 9 now, when we have a look at it, we can see that the outer shape is moving downwards and becoming larger. So in this case, obviously, it's this becoming this. And so we're expecting it to be this shape here, which is I should cover it up, is a hexagon, so we can get rid of C and E. The bottom shape moves up and takes place of the old outside shape. So in this case, it's going to be a circle on the outside, so that gets rid of B. And then finally, the small inside shape stays inside shape. So in this case, we want to have the square as the one being inside still, which it is because the triangle stays inside. So that's that. Number 10, looking at it now, we can see all the hearts are going one section anti-clockwise. So if you go from here to here, these two hearts end up here and here. So you can see you can think of that one moving down, but actually I think it's easier to say that one's moved over one and that one was moved over one. And all the other shapes move over one anti-clockwise. So if I do the triangle, you can see that it's moved over one space. And the same for actually all the other shapes. They all move over one space. So if we apply the same rule here, we want the heart to have moved one space down. So we're looking for a heart in this section. So we can get rid of A, B, could be C, could be D, can't be E. That's just based on the heart alone. And now we have to just go through and check that all the shapes. So I want a square in the top left, which is not done here, but this one does have it. And again, if you just check you've got the square in the top left, which you should have, then you want to have two triangles, and the circles move down one. So yeah, it is C. So a fair few things going on in number 10 there. Let's now have a look at the quick mark for pages 52 to 53. So by all means, pause it here if you want to just quickly do it. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next section. On now to the analysis. So let's look at number 1. My pen ready. So you can see here the figure is shrinking and the colors are swapping. So you're going to get a smaller shape or a smaller copy of the same, but this time with the black on the inside, or sorry, this one's right, with black on the outside, white on the inside, which is what we see in option D. Then now for question 2, 3, and 4, we can see for number 2 that we're obviously getting a reflection across the shape, so we need this L shape to be facing in this direction, so that certainly eliminates these two. And then the small shape seems to be the ones that are changing colour, so black to white, so I want it to be white triangle, so that eliminates B. And actually that also eliminates A, so C is our option just based on that one little sketch and spotting the colour changing. Number 3, the whole thing appears to be rotating. If you look, this is pointing in that direction, so it's rotating 180 degrees. And then it looks like the arrowhead is turning into a square. Or, let me just check. The arrowhead at the end, yeah, is matching. So this one's this one. So I'm guessing on this one then, we need to have the arrowhead changing to match the same number of arrows on the other side. So we need to have two arrows. So this one here needs to mirror and look like this one. So that means we want to have two arrows on both sides as well as it rotating. So it needs to be the star pointing down. So if this one here pointing downwards, that eliminates these ones. And then that's got too many on that side there, look, too many there. And there you go, E is our answer because it's got little two arrows, and the star's pointing downwards. So it's been rotated and it's copying the head shape of that side. It's copying, so the way to say it is copying the head shape of the side without the little bar across it. Or the one with the little bar is the side that changes. Number 4, it's rotating 90 degrees anti-clockwise. You can see it rotating to face downwards. And then the outline is becoming dashed. So here we need to have a dashed outline, and if it's rotating 90 degrees, it's going to be pointing towards the top right. So I think because it's between A and C for me, if we look at the shading, that horizontal shading, when it rotates, it's going to become vertical. So that's why I think C is the answer, because the shading within tells you the difference between A and C. All the rest obviously change size quite drastically. Okay, number 5. So if we look here, the number of sides of the outside shape have gone up by 1, and the number of sides of the inner shape have gone down by 1. So we've gone from 5 to 6, and from, I think, 8 to 7. So if we do the same pattern, it needs to be a 6-sided shape on the outside, and a 6-sided shape on the inside, because it's gone from 5 to 6 and 7 to 6. And then, of course, the shading has swapped round. So I think between C and D, D is the one we want, because the shading has swapped round compared to that first one. Number 6, you see the vertical lines are becoming horizontal, or I better say rotating 90 degrees, and they also seem to be becoming a little bit shorter. So we're looking for 2 lines across like this. Well, that eliminates option B and option D. And then the shape down here on the bottom seems to be rotating to sort of fit on the right-hand side. So I can only assume we need to have this triangle here on the right-hand side like this, and then the shading of the shape is changing to something completely different. So I imagine it needs to be, well, only A, because A is the only one with this triangle on the correct hand side. So both of these are pointing in the wrong direction. Number 7. So the long white shape gains an extra grey stripe, which you can see down here. And then the ellipse at the bottom becomes a black rectangle. So I think we need to have a black rectangle on the bottom. So let's eliminate all the ones without black rectangles. And we need to have one extra grey shape. So E's gained a black one, so it can't be E. And I think we also, if you look between B and C, it's the little number of I don't know, light sources coming out of what looks like to be like a candle. It needs to go from 2 to 3. So in this case, I'm expecting it to go from 3 to 4, or increase by 1. That's why I would pick C over B, based on the fact that the number of little shining lights coming out of the candle have increased by 1. Okay. Number 8. The spiral is gaining an extra side. It's gaining an extra bit around. That's why it's going from a triangle to a square, if you've got the basic pattern. So this one needs to go to a pentagon style shape in our spiral, so we can get rid of everything that's not a pentagon. Pentagon meaning 5-sided. We can also see it's reflecting, so that's sort of like a little snail thing pointing in that direction. It now needs to point to this. So it was pointing right. R1 needs to point to the left, so that doesn't help us. What about the hat type? Well, he's wearing a triangle hat and a square hat, so I think this one needs to be wearing a pentagon hat as well. The number of sides needs to go up by 1. And also it goes from black to grey, so we can eliminate this one. And then finally, the difference between A and C is just those 2 black dots there, and I can't see any evidence of the little snail's eyes changing colour, so I think we eliminate C based on that alone. Right, 9 and 10. Number 9, we get, well, the number of dots. So I think the number of dots relates to the number of sides slightly, because you can see here we've got 4 dots coming in 1, 2, 3, 4 dots, because we have the 3 sides and the 1 dot in the middle. So possibly here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots. So we need to have a 5-sided shape with a dot in the middle. So I think that's, do you see the pattern there? That it's sort of, it's like 1 fewer number of dots is the number of sides, because you need that 1 extra one to go in the middle. And then the number of lines, that's 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So perhaps it's the number of sides is the number of lines. So I think the number of sides relates to the number of lines on either side. And then the number of dots tells you, assuming that 1 goes in the middle, how many sides. In this case, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it needs to be a 5-sided shape with 3 lines around it. So no, 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 because the number of sides, and no, because the number of lines. So C is our answer based on that, and that becomes a lot clearer to see when you have the numbers laid out. So you can see that it's going to be like a 4 dots to the 3-sided shape, and then you've got 5 sides leading you to have 5 lines, and that's where you can see it sort of the pattern comes from. Interesting one that there, number 9. Number 10, so you've got the middle shape is rotating by 90 degrees, so in this case it's facing upwards. That doesn't really help us here, because of course the middle shape is not going to rotate very clearly if it's a circle. But it does also then become the outside, so the outside has to be a circle. Oh, no, can't eliminate off that one. So the old top shape is now rotating again 90 degrees clockwise to face, sorry, 90 degrees anti-clockwise to face downwards. So we're going to have this one here pointing upwards, I'd imagine. So the left-hand side should look something like this, with an arrow in it pointing up. And then this one, again, is rotating in the same direction to face upwards. So we're going to want to have an oval like this. But if you look at the color coding, it's swapped. The outside is from the inside and vice versa. So I think we're going to need to have an oval with actually a black square surrounding it. And then all of that inside of a circle. So obviously B is wrong because it's the wrong direction. A's got the shading wrong because it needs to be... Oh, actually, no, A well. Got the shading wrong entirely. Got them the wrong way around. And got the shading wrong again because that needs to be... It needs to be a black outside. Our sketch. Because if you look again, the shading's swapping here, so these two need to swap around. Right, so number 10 is A. Tough question, that one. Again, not an artistic sketch, but it got me close enough to my answer. Sorry, so A. So on now to pages 60 to 61. 60 to 61, again here, quick answer section, so by all means pause the video and mark it, otherwise we'll run through the answers in more detail. So again, pause it now, otherwise let's get going. So looking now, section 2 of pages 60 and 61. Question number 1, so you look here, the entire shape is being reflected to face downwards, and then the colour is changing. So we need to have these circles on the top and top side, which eliminates these options. But between these two, the shading needs to have changed. So what was white becomes black and vice versa. Number 2, if you look, the whole thing is rotating to face, well, rotating 45 degrees anti-clockwise and rotating in that direction. So we do the same thing here. It's going to be, the arrow's going to be sort of facing in the bottom right direction. That eliminates a few options. But then also look at the shading of the arrows is swapping. So it goes from black to grey. So black needs to go to grey, which is why it's B, not C. Number 3, you're simply swapping the left-hand shape and the middle shape over. If you look, they're just alternating. So here we need to have a square in the middle and this oval on the left, which is what we get in D. Number 4, we have, so the middle shape is shrinking, essentially, easiest way of saying it, and then the shading of the two is alternating. So we need to have black on the bottom, which eliminates these ones. And if you can visualize for 4 that obviously this flicky uppy part here of the curve has rotated, or sorry, actually reflected, so that this up corner is now on the right hand side. With this one, we're going to have this downward inset on the left. So if I was to sketch it, it would have sort of a down inset on the left, and then it kind of flattens out on the top. So as well as shrinking, it needs to look a bit more like this shape. And if you look, that is not the case. Indeed, look, it's on the wrong side, or in E. The flat bit, or the dent, is on the wrong side. So that's why we eliminate both of those options. So black on the bottom, and just having a mirrored image of the middle shape is important for that. Number 5. So the direction of the arrows is going in the opposite way. So in this case, we need to have arrows that are going from going anti-clockwise. So that eliminates option E for us. I think all the others. We've also got the inside shape becoming the outside shape. So we need to have a circle, not a triangle. And then it's just about thinking whether they should be on the top or the bottom. And it looks to me as though the interior shapes maintain the same position. So I want the smaller shape on the bottom, not on the top, which is why D is wrong. If you look at these two, same position. So I want these two to be different shapes, but in the same basic position. Number 6. Oh, number 6, this is actually just a rotation question. And we're just rotating it 180 degrees. So if we do the same thing here and rotate it, we're going to end up having the white triangle pointing down on the bottom, and the black triangle pointing to the left on top, with sort of the circle on it. And that drawing approximately matches A. Again, remember for these, physically pick up your book and rotate your book so that you can see it, and you can see how it matches really nicely. For number 7, everything on the flag hole is just moving over. So if we go, the black shading is now in the middle, the grey shading is now on the right. So the white then shading seems to have disappeared entirely and just been replaced by only black. So if we do the same thing here, we're going to want to have black on the right-hand side, so that eliminates this one and this one. Then we're going to want grey in the middle, which we've got. But the flag shouldn't be changing direction, and the flagpole, is changing colour. So it's going from black to white here. And I think the reason why is if you look, this white is sort of jumping onto the flagpole. So with this one, again, we want to have that white jumping onto the flagpole, which is why it's not the black flagpole, So yeah, the colour of all of them is just, the shading of all of them is just shifting over one to the right each time for number 7. For number 8, so the middle shape is sort of growing a little bit larger. So if you look, the oval now becomes the outside. So again, we sort of want this kind of oval shape, so that gets rid of D, if nothing else. So the central shape there stays essentially the same. So we're going to want to have a hexagon in the middle again. But the color is changing, so it's gone from black to white. So I think we need to have a white hexagon, so we can get rid of this black one here. And we can also have gotten rid of that grey one. That top arrow is changing color, so it's going from white to black. So that top arrow needs to go from white to black, so that lets us eliminate this option here. And then if you look, the dots seem to be changing color, so the dots are swapping over. So I think we want to have a black on the bottom and grey on top, so that gets rid of this one, which has got black on the top and grey on the bottom, meaning that C is our answer. So let's do that a bit more methodically, but good question. Number 8. Looking now at number 9, we can see that the whole shape seems to have been reflected, so it's or rotated 180 degrees or reflected to face upwards, and then separated. So I think we're going to want to have, again, the basic shape should be sort of like this, with the arch pointing upwards. That gets rid of A, but everything needs to have been separated and spread out slightly. Also, if you look, these two, that triangle and this oval, are swapping colours. So I imagine we need to have a black semicircle and a white triangle. So white triangle, white triangle, white triangle, black semicircle. Yeah, it's true. That semicircle needs to have split up, so it can't be like it is here in C, one whole shape. That's not allowed. But everything else, I think, should be functionally the same. So if it's flipping up, we should have the grey shape should be on the right-hand side, but look here, the grey triangle's on the left, so it's not B. Actually, that's where I should say it's definitely being, because it's on the same side, so it's being reflected. I shouldn't have said rotated. If I did say that, I apologise. It's being reflected up. And so if we look here, those lines are facing the wrong direction again because it's not been reflected. So it can't be D because of this horizontal action not facing the alternate way, making the option E. Finally then, for number 10, this is a bit like the last one where things are sort of shuffling around each time. So the hearts are on this corner, now they're on this corner. So I imagine the heart needs to go from here to here. So I want to see a heart on either the top or the bottom. And the stars and the circles are just alternating. So star, star, so it's just they're just like reflecting across. So I need to have a black star on one side, a white star on the other. Make those look like stars. And I need to have circles here, and that circle needs to be getting reflected across, so it's like this. Look at the shading change. And this one would also face, change like that. Now I have a heart at the top of the bottom. So this one is left, 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 right, right, right. But look, the stars are wrong for that one. That needs to be left, 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 right, right, right. But if you look, the hearts in the wrong position, and they're all this one's moving in this direction. So move that heart around in this direction. It should be on top, so it's not B. Left it up again. Look, the stars are the wrong way. And for this one here, the number of hearts seems to have doubled. So that means that then C is our answer. Phew, we got there. Well done. Right, guys, last section now. And that's on pages 76 and 77. Again, more of exactly the same. Here are the quick answers. By all means, pause it if that suits you. And otherwise, we'll run through it together in just a moment. So again, pause now if you want to mark from here. Otherwise, let's jump straight into it. So looking now at question 1. complete the pair, we can see that the shape is rotating round and the shading is swapping between the shapes. So we need to have dotty square, and actually B jumps out at me as the only one with the square or this dotty pattern inside the larger shape, which is how it needs to be. Number 2, you can see the whole thing is rotating 90 degrees clockwise, like so, and the shading is alternating between the two. So what was white becomes grey and vice versa. So for this one, it's going to rotate round and face in this direction. And so then we need to have just one grey bar. And also, actually, just to notice that star is a 6-sided star going to a 5-sided star. So this one needs to go from a 5-sided star to a 4-sided star. So those we can eliminate based on the wrong number of sides of the star, and that's pointing in the wrong direction. So B is our answer. So a few things to spot there for that one. For number 3, obviously the outside shape is being reflected across that green line. We also seem to have half of these shapes appearing in the other side, but in the other position. So the triangle appears in the bottom, this half sort of shield shape appears on the top. So this one here, I'm expecting it to be pointing in those directions. If I sketch it, something like that. Again, sketching has never been my greatest skill. Then I want half a heart on the bottom, and I want half of a sort of hourglass on the top. If I look at my picture, that matches with B actually quite well. Pleased with that. So that's the pattern. For number 4, we've got the left-hand layer swap or appears behind the top layer. So that means we want our circle on top to be completely visible. So first off, A is completely the wrong shape. It needs to be a circle. So B it could be, but it can't be C because it's on top. Then this layer needs to still be on top of the second most number of things. So E is eliminated because look, that's too far behind for that shape. And D is as well, and B is as well actually. So we needed to have, like in this one, so this is sort of in first position, this one's in second priority in terms of overlap, then this one for third, and then finally that last one there needs to be in fourth. So that's in terms of sort of overlapping or which one's on top, counting from top down. That's why number 4 is D. Number 5, so all these lines are sort of contracting. So here we need to have them all coming to the center, so it's going to look like that kind of shape. The star moves to the top, so in this case we need to then have a star on top. So that eliminates B and D for not having the star in the correct position. The rectangle and the circle share the same shading, so we need to have, in this case, because it's following that circle, so we need to have two pentagons shaded in black, and A and C, neither of them have 2 pentagons shaded in black, making E the correct option. For number 6, obviously we can see it's rotating 180 degrees, so now it's now pointing downwards. So if we do a sketch here, rotating 180 degrees, we're going to have this arrow is going to be pointing in this direction. But then these are going to be pointing upwards. Sort of the copy inside. But then at the shading, it was the outside back bit that is now, also the outside shading is from the inside. So I think here now we need to have a sort of a black outside and a white inside. That gets rid of B, gets rid of E because it's the wrong general shape. The arrow's in the wrong direction for D. And then let's just look at the difference between A and C. Oh, look, it's the dotted line at the bottom. And if it's going from a straight line to dotted, so straight line to dotted, that's why it's A and not C, because C needed to be dotty. Number 7. If you look, the small shape shading is just shifting over one. So that's shifted over and that's shifted over to get here. So if we do the same thing, I'm expecting this pattern to be in the middle. So that eliminates B and D and E. So it's between these two now. And then the larger shape seems to move to the right. So that again, this dot here goes to the middle. So if I look at this black shading needs to be in the middle section, like it is in A and C. All right, that doesn't help. Keep going. Well, the cross-hatching moves over and appears on the left. So perhaps we have this cross-hatching on the right-hand side. And look, yep. If you see here, that is cross-hatching is different places, and C is the correct position because this one here needed to have moved over to be on the right-hand side, not like it is in A. Okie dokie. For number 8, so it seems to be rotating 90 degrees clockwise, gets larger, and sort of then the edges become curved, for want of better ways. So if I did the same one for this and rotated it 90 degrees clockwise, the basic outline would be sort of something like this. A bit lower. But then curvy, and that overall shape kind of matches not with B, not quite with C because that bit's too high. Definitely not with C because that's like the bottom of my one. But it kind of matches with E. And then we've got to try and work out what's going on with the shading. I think they're just swapping, aren't they? So what was on the little bit is now on the larger bit. So what was on the little bit now needs to be on the larger bit. So you want sort of the cross-hatching-y thing on top and the black shading bit at the bottom part. Something like that. And that does match with A. That's a cool question, quite a hard one to draw because obviously it sort of curvifies, but that actually did sort of get pretty close to where the answer is. If you finish doing that cross-hatching, that's actually that's not too far off. Right, number 9. So it's rotating anti-clockwise, I want to say. So that zigzag is rotating round possibly. We've got 1, 2, 3 protrusions and still 3 protrusions, but the middle one seems to be pointing the opposite direction. So I think here we're going to need to have, instead of it being this way, it needs to be sort of based this way, but curvy, so some kind of curve. But let me just think. So that starts here and rotates, yeah, like it's anti-clockwise to get those two little leggy bits pointing the same direction. Let's do the same one here. Rotate it anti-clockwise. It would be like this. So that drawing's not quite right. So those wiggles need to be based, obviously they curvify slightly, but they need to be pointing to the left. So if you look here, that wiggle is the wrong wiggle. It's pointing in the wrong direction. If you think about where those like feet are pointing. Obviously A and E also go because they've not been done. So now it's actually just looking between B and D. What decides it is the position of those dots. And if we look, we've got 3 dots and then 2 on the inside. So I think 3 dots, and we need to go with the 2 dots that are on the inside for B, not D. So actually, we could do that just by considering the direction of the wiggle and the dots, get the answer for number 9, which is quite cool. Last question then, guys, and this is the last one of the homework, so really well done. Thank you for paying attention and keeping up with me. Number 10, so it seems like it's being sort of divided in 2 and then hinged open. So if we do that here, we sort of divide it in half and then hinge this side open. We want this bit to stay exactly the same. So that's different, so we can make that. So that bit's different for B, the shading's changed, so keep that same. All of this needs to be the same as this part, which it is for those. But now let's think about our hinged open part. Well, it would need to sort of obviously look like a bit like this, with sort of the triangle like so. But let's now think about the shading. If that moved up, the shading would be that part there. So opening up to that part there. That shading becoming. So I think the base shading would probably be the same. So if it's going to be horizontal like this, when you open it, it's going to be, sorry, it's vertical like this. When you open it up or move it up, it's going to be vertical. But I'm not sure about the shading on this part here when it opens up, or this part here, because it's not. If you look at this one, that top part is actually just the same as it was. So can you see how these two are the same, the same, the same, the same? So actually, when telling between these two as potential correct answers, because we eliminate that because the problem with A is it's vertical, I think actually it needs to be in the same direction as the original shape. So I think that's why it's E, not D, because although that's what it would look like if you swung it open, I think the rule from here is it needs to maintain the same type of shading. So this is what I'm looking to see, and this one matches question E for number 10. Oh, what a good one to start with. I like that. Right, guys, really well done. Obviously, mark yourself out of 10 for each of those sections. Amazing effort today. That was a big chunk of questions, so really well done for keeping up with me. Obviously, guys, thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully we'll see you next week for some more. Right, everybody. Bye-bye.